What's going on, guys? So, as you know, if you follow my channel, about a year ago, decided to give into one of my nerdy impulses and start playing the Warhammer 40,000 tabletop game. I've been reluctant to get into it for 16 years. I'd been a fan of the franchise and the story and the lore and read a lot of the books since I was 15 years old. But the amount of money and time I would have to put in to this hobby to have a fully painted army was not something I was willing or capable of doing until about a year ago. So I got into it about a year ago and I've been loving it. And with that has just come a general interest in tabletop wargaming. And I've come across a number of, let's call them Warhammer 40,000 alternatives that I think are they look promising, they look like good games. So I'm just going to be doing some videos to talk to you about some of them. And today we're going to be talking about Firefight. I think it's called Firefight. The universe and franchise overall is called Warpath. So I guess the full name of the game would be Warpath Firefight. So there's a little trailer here. Let's check it out. So that's the trailer for Warpath Firefight, or I guess it's just called Firefight. It's a game by Mantic Games, and I discovered this just browsing their website, and it looks like up until about a year ago, this game was just on a steep incline. It was gaining a lot of popularity, a lot of new models were being made for it, and it was doing really well. Of course, about a year ago, the Arcs of Omen storyline came out in Warhammer 40,000, which culminated with the return of what did we get out of the Arcs of Omen? We got a new Commander Farsight model. Angron, the Demon Primarch of the World Eaters, returned to the setting, and we got a new Angron model. And finally, Lionel Johnson, the Primarch of the Dark Angels, returned to the setting, and we got a new Lion model. Then, 3 months later after that, we got a brand new edition of the Warhammer 40,000 game. So, this kind of took a back seat after that. But, it does have a lot of promise. It uses alternating activations, so rather than it being like I do everything with my army on my turn, and then you get to do everything with yours. It's unit by unit. I get to do something with a unit. I activate it. I do some shit with it. Then you activate your unit and do something with it, and we go back and forth until both of us have activated all the units in our army. And whereas one of my problems with something like Star Wars Legion was it just doesn't seem like Star Wars Legion. Star Wars is not made to be a tabletop war game. The tabletop war game is just like sprinkles on the sundae. The Star Wars Legion is. This is made first and foremost to be a tabletop war game. Is there lore and backstory that goes along with it? Yes, but it was made to be a tabletop war game. Uh, and because of that, there's a lot of factions. You can see all the factions right here: the Asterians, the Enforcers, the Forge Fathers, the GCPS, Marauders, Maison Labs, the Plague, and the Veer-men. That's what they have right now. These guys, I'm getting Protoss / Eldar / Tau vibes from these guys. They are a race of aliens that fight their wars virtually / vicariously by piloting automated robots. Like, none of the models in this range are, let's see here, none of them are like actual people. They're not the actual aliens. They are like drones essentially that they're piloting from somewhere else. The Forge Fathers are the space dwarves. The Enforcers are basically like this universe's equivalent of space marines. The Plague is like, how do I want to? It's almost like just monsters, like infected, mutated monsters. The veer-men are like sci-fi rat people, like from the I forget what they're called in the Warhammer universe, but like the rat people, like kind of like kobolds. They're rat people. They're sci-fi rat people. Maison Labs is a human faction. The Marauders are the space orcs of this. The GCPS are like the Imperial Guard, and then yeah, I talked about the Asterians. So we have 8 playable factions right now, and they all look cool. The model ranges for them all are great. Now, something to separate this from Warhammer 40,000 is this is a much more like typical hard sci-fi universe in that, from what I can tell, there is no psychic-y, warp, magic-y demon shit going on at all. It's just it's this galaxy out in space that is being slowly but surely taken over by the humans, and the humans are doing it under the guise of like, we're here to ensure prosperity for all. But what they're really trying to do is just suck up all the resources they possibly can from every planet they possibly can. And it's very like, the humans, they're not a government anymore. It's more of just they're led by a coalition of major corporations. And there's other players in the galaxy like the Forge Fathers, the veer-men, the Marauders, and the Asterians who aren't cool with that. They're not cool with this coalition of human corporations coming in and just taking over everything. So the humans are once again kind of the bad guys, but it is also like 40K. It's one of those things where it's like, hey, everyone's just out for themselves. There's not really a bad guy. It's just like everyone has their own interests and everyone's trying to protect their own interests. But like I said, there's no warp magic, psyche shit going on. It seems to be pure sci-fi. The model ranges are pretty cool. They have vehicles and light infantry, heavy infantry. Let's just take a look at the enforcers. These are supposed to be like the Space Marine equivalent. Let's take a look at these for a second here. The model range here. Another thing about this game is that it is incredibly cheap compared to Warhammer 40,000. So like this would be an example of like this is called the Enforcer Strike Force. It's basically like a combat patrol. You get all of this, this aircraft, these speeders, these heavy dudes, infantry. You get all of this for $100. You can't really beat that. Now, how do the models look? Pretty good. I've, other friends I have that are into, tabletop wargaming, and I've kind of like, texted them about this and been like, what do you think of this? A lot of them have been like, I don't know, the models look kind of jank. I don't think so. I think they look pretty cool. I can't really complain. And especially I think they look cool on the tabletop. So that's like a combat patrol, and it's $100. Let's check out see if we can find just a basic here, an enforcer operative team. Operative team. So this is like a squad of like intercessors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 intercessors for $25. Holy shit. So this is a much cheaper alternative. I I want to say the models, they have nice detail and I like the colors and paint schemes. I think it's the posing of them, like what kind of pose is this dude in? I think that's where people kind of look at these and go, what's going on here? They seem to be posed kind of weird. Um, I don't know, it's just the way it is. But they're, cool sci-fi aesthetic. And if people out there, for one reason or another, you want something other than Warhammer 40,000, and you're just like looking for an additional reason to go with something other than Warhammer 40,000, the price point could be it here. It is significantly cheaper than Warhammer 40,000. They do have starter sets. If I can get this to go back, they do have starter sets here. I think they have like 2 or 3 different starter sets that come with like 2, for lack of a better word, combat patrol size armies in them. This is the Marauders and the Enforcers. The Marauders, like I said, are like the space orcs, and the Enforcers are like this universe's equivalent of Space Marines. They're the augmented super soldiers wearing highly advanced armor, that whole deal. Like, look at the number of models you're getting here in this starter set. You also get the core rule book, and I also want to point out that this game, all of the armies and their like data sheets and rules are all in one book. So you're not buying like a codex for each individual faction. If you buy a starter set, it comes with everything you need in terms of rule books, tokens, dice. It comes with everything you need to play in the one starter set. You don't need to buy anything else unless you want to buy a new army, an additional army. So there's that starter set. I believe they have one that's the veer-men versus the forge fathers, so like the rat people versus the space dwarves. They have their own version of like dreadnoughts. Looks pretty cool to me. I don't know. You guys can decide for yourself. $25 for that. That's a steal. You can't beat that. This aircraft, $47. These like almost heavy Terminator looking dudes, $25. Looks promising. A more melee focused Terminator. How much is he? $30. It's kind of hard to argue with that price. And like I said, it's alternating activations, so it features a lot more dynamic back and forth gameplay. You're not sitting there waiting while your opponent does a whole bunch of stuff and you're just reacting to what they do, waiting to get your turn to do stuff. It's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The model range is pretty wide. Like, this is just the enforcers we're looking at here. We haven't looked at any of the others. I gotta say, I'm rather impressed. Look at this guy, this big heavy dude with the claws. $18. This is a solid alternative to Warhammer 40,000. It's got enough factions. It's designed to be, the story and lore and everything is designed to go hand in hand with a tabletop war game. The price is unbeatable. You get all of the rule books and everything you need in one starter set. Let's see if we can look at a different model range here. Let's back this up a little bit. Let's take a look at the Plague. I think they've got some pretty interesting, cool looking models. Each, by the way, like right here, there's a bio about each faction, brief little rundown of the faction. I don't know why the Dreadnought thing or the Enforcer Strider is in with the Plague, but there's, some trucks, more aircraft. Look at how many these ghouls you get for $35. Zombies, all those for $35. I'm trying to look for some cool. Oh, a Plague Aberration. Let's check this thing out. This guy's gonna look sick. Yeah, that looks pretty damn cool. How much is it? $20? Holy crap. Wow. Wow. I doubt that the backstory and lore, there's no way that the backstory and lore of this universe goes as deep and is as, enthralling as Warhammer 40,000. Warhammer 40,000 has had 30 plus years to really flesh out its story. This is relatively new, but I don't know. That looks pretty cool. The Plague looks pretty cool. $25, or no, I'm sorry, $42, but that's for two of them, it looks like, unless I'm mistaken. Wow. A lot of cool stuff. Let's see what else we can find here. I would like to see more of the starter sets. Let's look at the Forge Fathers. Artificer Juggernaut, $47. It's pretty cool. What else we got here? A Forge Father battle group. Is this 3 tanks? Do you get 3? There's a pair, so you get 2 of these tanks for $100. That's a steal. It's $50 for a tank. Pretty cool stuff. Gotta be honest with you. Forge Father, Forge Lord. That dude's cool. Let's see here. Let's go back to factions. Let's look at one more. Let's look at the Marauders, the Space Orcs. Actually, we're gonna look at the Veer-men too, just to be thorough. So a lot of the vehicles seem to be repeated. which I suppose makes sense if it's a galaxy where like everyone is at odds with one another, but it's not quite that like 40,000 Warhammer 40K thing where it's like the human empire regards all aliens as like disgusting abomination. It's like no, like these guys they talk and they trade and they form alliances when it's in their interest to, and they backstab each other when it's in their interest to, and it just kind of goes back and forth, you know. So it's kind of like yeah, everyone wants to have the best tech. So you know if that faction over there has some cool tech, we're gonna try and take it for ourselves. I'm guessing. Those four guys, $25. Marauder Commando Captain. He's interesting. The orcs in this universe definitely don't seem quite as stupid as the 40k orcs do. I don't know why I'm having to click the back button twice every time. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Decent model range. Let's look at one more. Like I said, the veer-men. Let's look at their model range. So this is that other starter set here. Assault on XM2. This is what comes with the veer-men, like a veer-men force and a Forge Father force. So you get that tank plus all these Forge Father models, the core rule book, all the tokens, the army rule book, the rule book for all the armies, veer-men tank, these two vehicles, all these veer-men units. Pretty cool. For 140 bucks for all that. That's more like a see, that's like the price of a 40k combat patrol, except here you're getting 2 combat patrols. And honestly, that's a little cheap for a 40k combat patrol. More tanky stuff. What's this guy? A Brood Mother. That's weird. Interesting. Mutant Rat Fiend. Veer-men Pack Leader. $18 for this dude. Wow. It just makes you wonder. It's like, okay, if they can make models that I get it, are these as detailed and well sculpted as 40k models? No. But are these cool? Yes. And they're able to sell these for 18 bucks. Why are 40k models? Like it just reaffirms that like Games Workshop is ripping us off. Like we've known that for a while. Games Workshop knows they've got our wallets and we're invested and that they can more or less do whatever they want and we're not going to leave. Especially if like the worst thing Games Workshop has to worry about is something like this coming along to actually challenge them, but they just know anytime that does, they'll just pull some cool shit out of their butthole like bringing Lionel Johnson back and then a new edition of the game to go along with it and we'll be right there, no problem. So these are that's most of the factions, and then there is lore to this universe. You click on up here at the top, you go to the factions on Firefight, and you click Galaxy, and you get the history of the galaxy. It's also audio recorded, so you can play it and listen to it. A good chunk of it is there's the galactic map. You expand, it just keeps going and going. All the lore, explaining everything. You just got to click each tab. Each one's audio recorded so you could just listen to it. There's a lot of stuff to read about here. So like the universe is fleshed out. It's not half-assed. And unless I'm mistaken, let's see, here we go. Read the lore. Well, let me click on that, damn it. So this is the website for the company that makes this game. If we click here, if we go to, where was that at? Okay. And then we go to Warpath Universe. Okay, so yeah, so this is what I was looking for. There are some novels written in this universe. I believe this one and this one are collections of short stories. This one called First Strike, I'm pretty sure is about the humans. This is about the Forge Fathers. I don't know what these are about. There's also a sports game, kind of like Blood Bowl. that's incorporated into this universe. So I think that's what these might be about. But these are just like what's the word I'm looking for? Collections of short stories. So there's some short stories in here about the enforcers. There's some about the marauders, the space orcs, the veer-men, and then this is about the humans. And then excuse me, this one's clearly about the the Forge Fathers. So it's all very interesting. Pretty cool. It's the models look cool. There is a good amount of lore and backstory to it. There's just not a whole lot of books that you can, like novels that you can read. It's a lot of just, like I said, you're just gonna read or listen to stuff off the website. The model ranges are good and wide. They look cool. It's incredibly cheaper than Warhammer 40,000. And on top of that, it features the alternating activations for the more dynamic back and forth engaging gameplay. This is a real contender to Warhammer 40,000. I don't care what anyone says. So I might be getting into this game in the future. Definitely not right now, but sometime down the road in the future, I'm definitely gonna have my eye on this game and see where it goes. As of right now, it's got my attention. I'm not ready to bite the bullet on it just yet, and there's a couple other things I need to look into. I need to look into, like, okay, what's the community like for this game? Is there anyone up at my local hobby comic game store that plays this? So that way it's like, if I do have a gaming table set up down here in my basement to play tabletop war games on, but it's like, okay, if I bought like the starter set, one of the starter sets, am I going to have a number of people to play with, or is it going to be me having to like convince my friends to try it out with me? So I got to see what the community's like, and I got to really review the factions and whatnot and see what I want to play. But yeah, definitely something to consider. Mantic Games is the company. Firefight is the name of the game. Warpath is the name of the franchise/universe. Check it out if you guys are interested, but that's all I have to say about that. If you like this video, please hit that like button. It really helps out the channel. And if you want to help out the channel even further, check out some of my other videos and maybe subscribe. Other than that, I'll talk to you guys later.